Hi, I'm Dick Rauscher. I'm the founder, editor, and writer for the Stony Hill Newsletter blog. The Stony Hill Newsletter was originally developed to cover the subjects of human development, spiritual growth, and how to develop our consciousness and become a little more enlightened in our thinking process. Today, we're going to be talking about relationships and how to have a healthy, happy relationship. The concept I want to talk about today is the concept that love is not a feeling. Love is a behavior. When we are talking about relationships, love is always based on behavior, on loving behaviors. It has nothing to do with feelings. In fact, if we feel negative, that's when we most need to behave lovingly. Let's take a look at the subject for a moment, and I'll see if we can kind of outline it so it kind of makes sense for you. As a therapist for 25 years in private practice, it was not uncommon for me to have people and families come into my practice and be very distressed. They would be at the breaking point. The relationships would be literally in a divorce court, or children were ready to leave home, and people were really upset in serious levels of stress. What these families had forgotten is a very basic law of the universe, and it's a law that cannot be violated. And that is that when you put out a choice, or when you make a choice, or you put out a behavior into the world, you're going to get a consequence. You're going to get an outcome. There is no way to stop that, not in this universe. Perhaps in another universe that works differently. But here, you make choices, you get outcomes. And the choices and the outcomes that you get are always under our control. So basically, these families were coming to me and asking me to undo the hurt and disappointment of years of unkind and hurtful behaviors that they had exhibited to one another. They had lost track of the concept that if they want a healthy relationship, and this goes for every human being, I don't care whether it's a child or whether it's an adult, if you want a healthy relationship, then you have to learn how to take responsibility for the energy you put out. You can't put out unkind behavior and unkind energy and have a happy relationship. It's never going to work. The other thing that they had forgotten is that relationships are not this magical thing that just somehow happen. They happen one behavior at a time. It's one choice, one behavior at a time. And over time, that relationship is going to reflect the kind of energy that has been transmitted back and forth between the individuals. These families and these couples had unknowingly allowed the narcissistic, kind of self-focused primitive ego of their inner child, which is all unconscious, of course. It's an unconscious part of our psyche. But they had allowed that part of their psyche to begin taking control of their relationships. And of course, we know that the primitive ego is not a kind part of us. It's a primitive. It's a part of us that developed when we were very little. So to be kind of narcissistic and self-focused is kind of the work of the primitive ego. But it's not something that we want to get into our relationships. If we want to have happiness in our relationships with others, then we have to become self-aware. We have to start watching when we knee-jerk some sort of negative response to someone else's input. We have to become aware when we're putting out that primitive ego negative energy. And interestingly enough, as we pay attention to the energy that we're putting out, and of course that's intentionally paying attention. This doesn't happen accidentally. As we intentionally pay attention to the energy that we're putting out into the universe and into relationships with other people, then what we'll begin to notice is we'll begin to pay attention more and more easily. And amazingly, we'll begin to recognize that some of what we're putting out isn't very helpful for us. In fact, it's shooting us in the foot. It's creating conflict and hurt in our relationships. And it obviously is not creating happiness anywhere. So The work is to intentionally become self-aware. Pay attention to that energy, and like a snake shedding its skin, the work will be effortless. You'll begin to change only because the old way won't make sense to you anymore. Becoming happy and developing happy relationships is not hard work. It's really simple. It just means learning to pay attention. Now, that can be difficult sometimes, but if you stick with that process, eventually it'll become second nature to you. You'll always be watching the energy you put out into the universe, and you will always have a choice. And that's the other key. What we put out in the universe is our choice. It doesn't make any difference how you're feeling. Just because we have a feeling doesn't mean we have to work on it, or that we have to act on it, or we have to put it out. All we have to do is pay attention to it. And feelings are important. They help us navigate the world. But we don't have to act on every feeling that we have. We always have a choice as to how we're going to behave. So, bottom line, pay attention, become self-aware, watch about the energy you're putting out, and recognize that what you put out is always a choice. It does not have to be a primitive ego knee-jerk reaction. We do have the ability to make choices to be loving in our behavior, to be compassionate when we're dealing with other people in our lives. So, have fun with this material. It can be extremely useful in helping you to begin weaving a very healthy and happy relationship with people around you. If this has been helpful for you today, don't forget to sign up on the link in the upper right-hand corner of your computer screen, and that'll take you to a sign-in page for the Stony Hill newsletter blog, and you'll get automatic announcements or emails whenever we put a new article out or whenever we put a new video out. So we'll be looking forward to seeing you next week. Have a great week, and happy relationships.